Hello everybody, and welcome to my painting tutorial. This tutorial I'm going to show you how I paint Space Marine faces. This isn't a hard and fast rule, this isn't the way to do it, it's the way I do it. There's 101 ways to skin a cat in the painting miniatures game, as you are all already well aware. So what I'm doing here, I've sped the video up, so for the love of God don't actually think that I paint this fast, because that would just be crazy. The best advice I can give to you on that is take your time and enjoy it. So here we are, I'm applying the first coat over a Chaos Black undercoat of Citadel Bugman's Glow, and this is a really nice base colour. It goes on really well. You can see that I'm mixing it with a little bit of my Liquitex Fluid mix. That's 1 part Liquitex Fluid to 20 parts water. This just helps it flow off the brush really nice and gets a nice even coat. Most people will tell you that to get a nice really even coat with the first base coat, I'm not going to say to do that. I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to say if there's a little patch where you can see the dark black through the colour, don't worry about it too much at this stage. At the end of the day, we're painting skin. Skin isn't even, skin isn't uniform, so I wouldn't bust a nut trying to get a nice really even coat. Just take your time, spread it over. What I will say, make sure you get into all the crevices, because that's where you want the depth of this colour to be. Okay, this is the next step. Sorry about the light in the camera. This part of the clip, I don't know what went wrong. It just seems to be dark, but it does sort itself out later in the video. All I'm doing here is I'm going to start painting in the midtones. So basically all that means is I've opened a pot of Citadel's Cadian Flesh Tone. Again, it's another really nice flesh colour, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in the main body block of colour on the head, and all I'm doing is I'm leaving the Bugman's Glow in the deepest recesses. There's a dimple on the chin, there's the 2 cheek lines, the eye sockets, and sort of the back part of the nose, the inner ear. That's all left with the original Bugman's Glow. The rest I'm covering with this Cadian Flesh Tone. And again, you can see me just dabbing my brush in a little reservoir of Liquitex Fluid, just mixing it in, rolling the paint around on the brush just to keep my point. When working on something small like this on the head, like heads and stuff, just try not to put too much paint on your paintbrush, and also watch for the paint drying. If the paint dries, it starts to drag and you get a lumpy painted finish, which we don't really want. It's worth mentioning I did paint all the details on the head that weren't a flesh colour before I started painting the flesh tones. This just helps, especially with metallics. So there, I'm just trying to give you a bit of a look now that I've got all the mid-turns on the model. So what I'm going to do next now, I'm going to get the burn colour, I think that's Vallejo Game colour, burn white, and I'm going to mix that 50-50 with the Cadian Flesh Tone. And again, I keep going on about this Liquitex Fluid. You can just get away with water, plain water, and it just helps the colours mix, helps the paint flow, stops it from drying, all the usual jargon. Just get a nice consistency on the paint, and tend to find things a lot easier. So here with this colour I'm targeting the highlights. I'm going with the top of the nose, the cheekbones, and I'm going to go for the eyebrows, the where his head furrows above his eyes, the tops of his ears, and again I'm going to go for the top of his head. The top of his head's always going to be exposed to light, so that's going to be quite light in colour. So again, you can just see how I'm working that paint around the face there. I'm painting these on some cocktail sticks purely for this tutorial. Normally the head would be attached to the body, and then I stick the whole model on its base, and then just stick that on the top of an old paint pot or something, because it just helps you grip the model and get around it. So what I'm now doing is, I nearly missed telling you about it, is some of the bleached burn from the original colour, or the burn white, I've just done extreme highlights on, which is just where the most exposed areas would be. Just the toppermost part of the cheekbone, the nose, the toppermost part of his forehead, and just trying to just really help give some depth to the model. Don't worry too much about blending the colours into one another, because we're going to deal with that in a couple of steps time. All we're trying to do is just to build up a few layers of different colour to create depth to the miniature. So this is the stage that's going to tie everything all together. This is Flesh Tone Shade from Vallejo's Game Colour, and I really like it for this job. And what I'm doing is I'm putting in, this is where an even coat really benefits you. You only want this wash pooling in the eye sockets and the crevices. This is how it's dried. If you let it pool and going to put like puddles on his head, they will show out and they'll look horrendous, so try and avoid that. The next stage we are going to paint some stubble, because I don't like all my Space Marines to be baldies. To do this I've used Vallejo Air Colour base grey, and I'm mixing that with the mid-turn of the flesh. So if you change the colours slightly, just change this step as well, so that the colour you've chosen for your mid-turn is what you're mixing with the colour you want your stubble to be. So now I've got that nice and fluid, I put a little bit of Liquitex fluid, and I start with the stubble on the chin, and I work in short lines, starting as closest to the lip and working to the bottom of the chin. And I'm going all around the side of the bottom of his chin, where you would expect stubble to be. I'm going to paint some sides in, and then I'm going to start around the base, the back of his hair, and I'm going to go all the way over the top of his head. But you'll see that I'm working out, I work to paint the hair, I work from the inside out. I hope that makes sense, and you'll see that more when I start painting their hair. And just always try and work in lines. Hair's wavy, hair's spiky, hair's, it doesn't, there's no definite lines with hair, so this helps to create that sort of effect. Just going back briefly to the wash that I used, if you don't happen to have this wash, you could quite easily make a skin tone shade or wash. You could mix some of the GW Agrax Earth shade. You could mix that with a little bit of the Carabao Crimson, and you could achieve a similar sort of colour to what I've got in the Vallejo shade. Again, it's just a wash, it's just a shade, so that doesn't have to be the Vallejo one. And again, it's skin tone, so if you do one model different from the other, it's not going to matter, it's just going to look more realistic, if you were to ask my opinion. So this is really just to give you a guide, an idea of how I do my faces. So here you can see me just working on the top of the head now, just trying to make it not look like a perfect line. You could actually leave the head at that stage if you wanted. I'm going to take it a few stages further. I'm going to use a little bit of the Carabao Crimson, and I'm going to cut that with a little bit of my Liquitex Flow-Aid solution just to thin it down a bit, and I'm just going to go and paint it around the studs on his forehead, and then just feather it into the skin tones. By feathering I mean leave the strongest colour in the around the most edges of the studs, and just sort of feather it, almost blending it into the skin colour. And this just makes it look like it's a bit sore around where he's had studs pushed into his head, because let's face it, your head would be sore if someone pushed studs into it. So that's what I'm doing here. I also painted two other heads. You'll notice them at the beginning of the tutorial. This is just so I can show you a few other techniques using different shades. Once you've got your basic flesh tone there, it's just to show you how easy it can be to alter the look of the head. So here I've used Dutchy Violet, and I've gone around the edges where the head meets the metal with the purple. Gives it sort of a necrotic look. Those adventurous people among you would like to try and paint some eyes, which is what I've attempted here, using GW's Ceramite White, probably one of the best white paints I've ever had the pleasure of using. However, it is a bit thick, so mix it with the Liquitex Flow-Aid, get it really fluid on your brush, and that should allow you to paint the eye sockets. Here you see me cheating. I'm using my Micro Arts pen. It's a 0.05 nib, and I'm just putting 2 dots in for the pupils of the eyes. If you don't have a pen, you could sharpen a cocktail stick and just dip it in paint and do it that way. Here I've gone back to the base colour, the base coat colour, Bugman's Glow, and I've just done a thin line across the bottom of his lip. This just helps, again, your lips are slightly darker than the colour of your skin. Here I'm using Carabao Crimson on another head just to show you a different effect. All the 3 heads can be viewed at the beginning and at the end of the tutorial on the intro and extra exit screens. The Dutchy Violet, I'm going again with a second coat. The first coat had been feathered in. The second coat gives a stronger purplish cut tinge towards the edges of the model. Thanks for watching. Please comment, rate and subscribe. I'd love to hear feedback from all of you. If you guys check out Hex Gamers Facebook page. They're a bunch of really good guys, lots of great advice. Enjoy. Laters.